Okay, so for my first video, I'm going to talk about realization. And realization is an understanding that God exists. I've had this understanding that God exists since I've been 13 or 14 years old, and now I'm 18 years old. And this realization comes about through prayer, meditation, going to Mass, receiving the Eucharist, all these different kind of things. Any kind of way in which you can talk to God, you can be with Him, you're listening to Him, you're really trying to seek Him out. That's how you come to understand that He exists. Because when you actively seek God out, you'll start hearing His voice. You'll hear Him speak to you about your life, about your problems, and He'll really reach out to you. And a lot of people struggle with this because they may not hear Him as soon as they want to hear Him, or they don't know what's wrong. And the biggest problem is God's always waiting on us. He gives us free will. So when we say things like, God, don't bother me right now, or our actions show that we don't want to be bothered with God, such as when we use His name in vain, when we don't honor our parents, when we start lying about other people, we're saying that we don't want God to talk to us. We're pushing Him away. And when we push Him away through all these different things that He's asked us in the Bible not to do, through His commandments that He's asked us not to do, it's going to be a lot harder for us to hear Him. And it's going to be even harder for us to understand that He exists in the first place. It's going to be a lot harder for us to realize that He's there. But I promise you, He's there. You just need to really sit down and give Him time. You need to really listen and just wait for Him, because God's not bound by time and space. We have this conception of time. We have 24 hours in a day, 365 days a year, 7 days a week, all of these different kind of things, and we base everything we do on time. I have this much time to study, I have this much time to go to work, I have this much time to go hang out with my friends. But that's not how God works. God is just there. He just is. And He's not bound by all these different kind of things. So when we feel like we waited way too long on God, He told us what we needed to know at just the right time on His own schedule. And His schedule is whenever He knows we're ready, because He knows what's best for us. And He's not going to necessarily tell you in 1 hour or in a week. So quit worrying about how long it's been since God has talked to you. Just listen for Him and be patient. And when you finally do hear Him speak to you, you'll start realizing that He is there and that He exists. It's not going to be this question anymore of, who the heck is this person that's up here, and what am I supposed to do since I can't see Him? How am I supposed to understand this? There's not going to be that confusion there when you actually hear Him. Because when you hear Him, you'll just know. You'll feel it in your heart, because that's where God is. He's in all of our hearts. That's what Jesus died for. He died so that we can have a more personal relationship with God, and so that we can realize God is there. Because if you go read the Bible, in the Old Testament, the Israelites felt so distant from God. So much of their problems came from the fact that they kept forgetting God's commandments, and they kept forgetting the fact that He was there. They didn't even call Him God. They called Him Yahweh, and they said some different things, but there just wasn't a very personal relationship. They felt like they couldn't address Him the same way that we now believe we can address Him, the way Jesus said we can address Him, such as Father. The Israelites never would have thought that they can do that. But we know from Jesus that we can do that. And by calling Him Father and asking Him to help us and be with us, we can realize that He's there. And we can start to really understand who He is. And so you really just have to be patient. I promise you, He's there and He truly exists. It's not some scam. It's not just this thing for me and all the other Catholics and Christians just to feel better about themselves because we're all worried about death or something like that. I don't want anybody telling me that because I'm not worried about death or anything like that. I'm perfectly okay with that. I don't have this religion because I have all these fears in my life. I have religion because I realize God is there and because I know that my life is far better with Him. Religion is not a chore for me. It's not conditional. My religion and what I believe is I believe what I believe because I've realized that God's there. And I promise that you will realize He is there too. Just give Him your time and really pay attention to what He's trying to say to you. Go say a prayer and tell God exactly what you're feeling. Go ask Him to help you to realize that He's there. Tell Him your specific problem because if you don't, there's not that much He can do for you because He gave you free will. So if you're not asking Him to help, He's not going to force it upon you. So make sure you go ask Him to help you realize that He exists and that He's there for you and that He wants to help you with any kind of problems that you're having or just that you want somebody to listen to. He's your friend. He loves you. I promise.